What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Ramsey, and this is Nick and Jack's Cougar Chat. I got my good buddy and my colleague here, Jack Ridenhour.
Yes,
Jack, how you doing
absolutely.
today, man?
Great. Welcome everyone to the show. We are glad that you all could join us here today. Nick, you want to jump in? Want me to jump in?
Well, let's tell the fans
Fair
and
enough.
the
Yeah,
listeners
we'll give
what
them.
we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about today. Pretty much, we'll give you a rundown because this is our first podcast of the 2019 school year, and pretty much what we do is we just pretty much just talk about Chatham sports. You know, we got women's and men's sports here at Chatham, and obviously NCAA D3. We're located in Pittsburgh, and we're two of the only. There might be like a couple other guys in a sports broadcasting program, but we're kind of the only two guys that are just primarily focused on sports broadcasting. You know, I know one of my main goals is to be a play-by-play analyst for a Major League Baseball team. And Jack, what's your main?
I would just love to be on TV in some capacity. Basketball is my thing. I love baseball too, so either sport, I would love to do both. Those would be very cool jobs to have, either PA announcers or, like you said, color commentators or play-by-play. That'd be a very cool job. That's
And
definitely a dream job of mine for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we do we do the PA announcing around here. We share it with a couple other people, but me and Jack are the two main guys. We do streaming for mostly the basketball games.
Yeah.
And other than that, we just run this podcast. Jack is an ex Chatham basketball player. He came into Chatham to play basketball, and I am currently in my final season. Well, about to start my final season for the baseball team here. But today is a strictly basketball podcast. We had a couple great games the other day. Your lady and men Cougars faced Waynesburg, the Yellow Jackets, and they both came out with a loss. But I think there's a lot of good topics to talk about from those games and just the basketball team in general. So, Jack, why don't you
Absolutely.
get us underway?
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I definitely feel that we'll start with the women's game. Why don't we kick it off with the women's game? Women's they had a kind of a slow start a little bit, and then they picked it up towards the end of the first half. And then I believe at one point early on in the second half, about around the third quarter, they were up 6 points, and after that they only scored 7 points for the rest of the game. So I think that was the big difference. I know you and I both talked about teams that go on big runs like that can pose a huge problem. Number one, Brooke Fuller for the Yellow Jackets had 22 points and 11 rebounds. So when you got, other players on the other teams having double-doubles and, scoring 20-plus points, it's pretty hard to contain that defensively, honestly.
Definitely. And the final score of that women's game was 70-59. In the fourth quarter alone, it was a 24-7 game in favor of the Yellow Jackets, obviously. Going into the fourth quarter, it was a score of, let me do the quick math really quick, 46 to 31, 53. So what did I say, 56, 53?
I think so.
36.
Yeah.
46-53. They were up going into the fourth quarter, and then they just kind of crumbled at the end. They just couldn't finish off the game, but that's all right. We had who was our main scorer in that
Megan
game?
Sig.
Megan
Sig again.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, we've said her name and her sister's name, Katie, and fellow backcourt mate Ashley McLean's name. I feel more times than we've said many other players' names on both men's and women's teams. I mean, we affectionately call them the scoring trifecta here at Chatham University. So
that we do. They totaled for 54 points on the night, so 54 out of their 59 points, it looks like. Oh, sorry, not 50, 44. So that has 10 points coming off the bench and 5 points coming from Olivia Barkley, who started the game, number 4, Olivia Barkley. But we had another 5 points coming from Sierra Ungerman and another 5 coming from Caitlin Fertig. So a little more production out of the bench I see this game. We've been talking about that a lot this year, how it's pretty much been that main scoring trio of Katie and Megan Sig and also Ashley McLean, but there just hasn't been a lot of bench production. I believe the game before last, there's only 1 point scored off the bench. So it was definitely nice to see him kick it up a notch a little bit, but I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement still.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I definitely think that it's kind of gone up and down with the bench scoring this entire year. I have been very impressed with Caitlin Fertig the first year coming in, stepping
Definitely.
into a big role. She's going to be filling some really big shoes here these next couple years when Ashley, Katie, and Megan all graduate. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see kind of the direction in which this team goes, kind of like where David Sauer is going to take this team. And,
Exactly. We talk about that a lot when we're streaming the games too, because uh, Katie, Megan, and Ashley. I see Megan had 40 minutes in the past game. Katie Sig had 36, and Ashley McLean had 38 minutes. So, and that's pretty much how that's been the story all year. Those three have been the main, not only the main scorers, but pretty much they've been in the game almost the whole time. And the only downside I see of that, well, a couple downsides are, what are you going to do next year when they're not your option?
Right.
They're your main three scorers, and coming into the 2020 season, that's weird saying
2020,
2020.
yeah, I know.
Going into the 2020 season, none of them will be here unless something happens and Katie and Ashley stay for grad school.
Mhm.
But other than that, we're getting down to, we're in the second half of the season. We're probably in like the last third of the season now, as a matter of fact. And
Yeah, I think
when it
we
comes
got
down to playoff
nine more
time,
games.
exactly
Yeah,
nine more.
games.
And we talked about this a lot during the stream too. They just looked tired out there right off the bat.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what their game plan is come playoff time, because that obviously tensions will be high. You know, that's when the adrenaline kicks in, man. It's
Yeah.
playoff time, but we'll see how what Coach Sauer decides to do with that scoring trio. If he'll give a little more bench time, let them kind of heat up, I guess.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
what's
I
going
kind of
on.
am curious to see if anyone's gonna, like kind of an unsung hero is gonna step up to come playoff time. Someone that
Mhm.
I like to talk about, Olivia Barkley. Someone who I've mentioned that she's a good basketball player and she's capable of doing a lot of great things for this team. And I feel that she's been a little quiet this year. And I definitely think that, recently she's been playing a lot better. I have to say she's
For
been
sure.
playing a lot better, being more aggressive offensively. I think that was a big thing for her in the first half of the season, just her kind of lack of aggressiveness offensively. But I definitely think that her and also Sierra Ungerman just coming off of a lower body injury, I believe it was her ankle. So, those two players, watch out for them. Keep an eye out for them, because I think that they definitely could step into some big roles here in the coming games towards the end of this year.
Definitely. And they, as a matter of fact, they have 6 games left, not 9. All conference
Okay.
games next week. Well, actually, the 26th. We're doing this podcast today on the 25th. It probably won't go up for about a day or so. But on Saturday, January 26th, they go to W&J. Next Wednesday, they go to Grove City. And then next Saturday, the February 2nd, that's when they come back to Chatham and they're playing Bethany. And then from there, they have Teal, Geneva, and St. Vincent. And hopefully, we have 5 games in between St. Vincent. St. Vincent, we all know how they're looking this year.
Yeah.
They're still undefeated in the conference. And hopefully they can get at least, I'm thinking they need at least 4 wins in between there, because you want to go into St. Vincent with a great attitude, thinking
Absolutely.
like you're obviously final game of the year, you want to pull out against the number 1 seed, but how likely is it when they're undefeated, So you got to give credit where credit is due.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I
yeah.
definitely think that the 2 biggest games that they cannot lose are the 2 home games. Those are 2
For
games
sure.
that they cannot. If they're going
So
to
Geneva and Bethany.
Right, if they're going to go into the St. Vincent game, 2-2 or 2-3, those 2 wins have to come from home. But it'd be great to take one away on the road too. I'm looking at the schedule. We're both looking at the schedule right now, and they have Grove City, Geneva, Bethany. So 3 teams that they definitely can beat. W&J.
Geneva 0-10 in the conference so far. So they play W&J. W&J's 9-1. Grove City 6-4. Bethany 5-4, and then Chatham's 5-5. Chatham, the women are right now, they're 5th in the pack out of 9 because Thomas More?
Thomas More.
Thomas More.
I actually just
moved
got
up
word
to
that
D2.
it's actually top 8 that makes the playoffs, not top 6.
So as long as with 9 teams, as long as they're
Yeah.
not the worst,
Yeah.
which Geneva 0-10, it's kind of safe to say that Chatham will be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like,
Knock on wood.
knock on wood.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, a lot of interesting and exciting basketball coming up. What do you think? You want to you got any more thoughts on the women's?
We'll take a break and
Alright.
we'll go into men's basketball on the second segment. So, stick around
Good
because
deal.
we'll have lots more coming at you guys.
Good deal.
Welcome back, everyone, for segment number 2. Jack Ridenour alongside my good friend Nick Ramsey. We're going to be bringing some men's basketball at you right now. Nick, want to jump in with that? Or do you want me to take over first?
No, why don't you start and I'll give my
yeah.
little rundown.
So, men's basketball also took a tough loss to Waynesburg, same day as women's did on January 23rd. Definitely came into the game riding pretty high. We're coming off a win against Westminster at home, so definitely a big win for the Cougars there. Also, big highlight that night, Alex Chopin, senior sharpshooter, scored his 1,000th point, becoming the second member in the men's program to make the 1,000-point club. His fellow teammate Isaiah Brown doing it earlier in the season. So definitely a lot of promising things for the Cougars
for sure.
going on throughout the rest of the season. As you know, as you and I both said, they've got about 6 or 7 games left. Similar schedule to the women. So, finishing up with St. Vincent away, that's definitely, I'm looking at that game right now, and I'm already penciling that in my calendar as a huge game because that's
at St. Vincent too.
At St. Vincent at the end of the season. So, we'll see. Right now, I believe they're sitting third in the standings.
They are.
And St. Vincent is first.
They are 5-5 in the pack, and overall they are 11-7.
Yeah.
Percentage of 6-11, so can't complain so far.
No, not at all. And
third in the conference, that's a big step up from where they've been in years past.
Absolutely.
So they're only going up right now.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that has to deal with, I feel now the seniors on this team, very senior-laden team, I think that they're really starting to kind of put the pieces together. This is their senior year. They want to make a good run at the conference championship. So it'll be interesting to see how the end of the year goes. I'm looking for guys like Anthony Big Shot Bomar. I'm looking for him to really kind of control the tempo from here on out with all these games. He's really kind of their floor general. He leads the way. They do everything. So I'm really kind of curious to see how he leads his team throughout the rest of the season. Also, curious to see how Mark Wells does the rest of the year. I feel like he's a name that we haven't said much on either the live coverage or any other broadcast outlet. Big guy, center, 6'8". I think that he's coming into a role of his own as of recently. I feel like he's been playing a lot better. I'd like to see him be a little bit more aggressive. I feel like when he's really aggressive and he's really, going toe-to-toe with the other big guy on the other team, offensively, I think that he's a skilled basketball player, and he really does a nice job down low.
Oh, definitely. A lot of potential in Mark Wells right there. One guy I was really surprised at from the last game against Waynesburg.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was blanking on the name.
No.
One guy I was really surprised with was Nasir Alexander. He only came out with 9 points, but he came up with some big three-pointers and some really crucial moments throughout that game. And he's one of those guys. He's not only great on offense, but he's a great defender. I believe I'm trying to find his height. He's about
5'8". Yeah, he's like our height.
Yeah, our height, and he's just going toe-to-toe with the biggest guys out there. And he's in their face. You could tell he's really getting in their heads. Great defender. I love watching him on the defense aspect of the game. One thing we forgot to mention in the first segment was also Katie Sigg, Megan Sigg, and Ashley McLean within the past, I'd say 3 weeks. They also joined the 1,000-point club, so big shout-out to them. That's an awesome accomplishment. And that's something they'll be able to say for the rest of their lives. Being a college athlete, that's one thing, but that really kind of like sets yourself
separates
apart,
yourself.
1,000 points. It's a really big feat, and that's pretty distinguishable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all the players that have scored 1,000 points, they've been hardworking players, 4-year players, and they've been big parts of their respectable programs. And I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been around many other athletic departments, but I don't know about you, I haven't really heard of a basketball program having 5 1,000-point scores in one season.
Not too many. And I think that's what's unique about Chatham, especially from the men's aspect, because I really don't know what to say for the women's, because for the guys at least, a lot of the guys that came in as first years and started out with this program and kind of earned a starting spot, they've had these 4 solid years to get these 1,000 points. But on the women's aspect, through injuries, these girls came in. It wasn't a new program. It was already a settled it was already an established D3 basketball program, and they came in and pretty much took over the roles, and they grabbed the reins and they took off with them. And it's it's very respectable on the men's side, but I think almost it's on a different level for the girls because they had to come in and pretty much earn their spots um, from past players, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas the guys they came in, they kind of had a blank slate. You know, they obviously had to beat out the rest of the guys on the team like for a starting spot, but I think it says a lot about each player, all five, and then also what was it? Ashley's sister,
Yeah,
Rachel.
Rachel
She
McLean.
was joined the 1,000 Point Club a couple years ago, so that's pretty cool, following in her sister's footsteps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both Sig sisters, both McLean sisters. There's some good
Definitely.
genes in both those families. It's
Exactly,
seems
and the
like
Sigs play soccer.
Yeah.
It's
dual athletes in college. Yeah, and they're both
Definitely.
very impressive soccer players too. So
definitely.
yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the season though for both
Me
men's
too.
and women's team. I think that they're going to finish strong, and I think that we're in for a treat come
we
playoff
definitely
time.
are.
I think that for sure can make a big push. I think it's going to take a lot of improvement in the next couple of games, but I think it's very doable, and I think that players like Ashley McLean and Katie Sig and Megan Sig, yes, they have to take a majority of the shots and take a majority of the responsibility, but I think that supporting characters, Caitlin Fertig, Natalie Knob, I think they're players that can also come in and impact the game themselves off the bench. Same thing for the men. I think, starters like Isaiah and Will Sander and Alex Chopin, guys that really put the ball in the bucket consistently. I think that it's going to take more than just those 3 or 4 guys kind of going off every game. It's going to take, Nas come in and hit, a couple threes, or Devin Stedman, another name and someone we haven't seen, getting a bunch of time this year. Have him come in, give 4 or 5 points, 5 or 6 rebounds, impact the game as much as he can. So it'll be exciting. I'm really excited to see the rest of the season. Absolutely.
And we have a lot for a lot of different sports. We got baseball and softball coming up. Lacrosse is coming up for men and women's.
Right. Baseball, softball. I know you mentioned that. Yeah.
I know in a podcast or so, a couple podcasts from now, we're probably going to do a recap of the winter sports, of the fall sports, because we don't want to leave them out. It just, for some reason, it took a while to get the ball rolling on the podcast game this year, but we want to shed some light on all those athletes too, because there were a lot of records broken, a lot of great seasons, just a lot of stuff to talk about in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Don't forget, follow us on Instagram, Twitter. It's going to be at Nick and Jack Show, just plain and simple, Nick and Jack Show.
Absolutely.
And other than that, I think I'm good to go for
I'm good to go.
for the first podcast of 2019.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments, feedback, please let us know on social media. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions or take any sort of feedback. We want to make this as informative and fun for you guys as it is for us. So, this show is your guys as much as it is ours. So
Definitely.
we look forward to sharing more sports info with you guys in the coming months.
It's a fun time.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.